Hello and welcome to our podcast, What's the Plan? I'm your host, Shravani. So, today we'll be talking about a topic that's more relevant to the couples out there, how to manage or balance money and harmony. So, as we all know, that affluence and financial independence is growing a lot among individuals and couples, especially out there. So this kind of gives rise to a very unique situation in couples these days, which is a double income, no kids, or smaller families in general. So they do not have the traditional responsibilities that they previously did, and they have better disposable incomes. So. But this also brings into the picture more complex problems, like how to manage their finances, how to plan for retirement, etc. And to answer all of these questions, I have with me the founder and CEO of our firm, Mr. Vishal Dhawan. Hello Vishal, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here as always.
Yes, so let's get right into it and talk about how financial plans or holistically how financial plans might look for couples these days, because since you have double income, and instead of just replicating one strategy to the other, how do holistically plan for your future, and also in terms of how risk appetite can be managed for both couples, because we may see that one couple might be leaning into a more aggressive style of investing, and the other might not be comfortable with that. So how to manage all of that in terms of your financial plans?
No, I think it's a very important point. I think there is this tendency for partners to have one couple make all financial decisions, while the other partner is more passive or just simply taking in the information. And I think what that does is it does create complexity as one moves forward, because the two investment styles and the two approaches to money which partners have may be very different from each other. What we found is it's a very good idea to actually communicate very openly about this. Very often there may be a need for a third party to be present, like a financial advisor as well, to actually go out there and enable the right questions to be asked around money. So some of the things that we see very commonly is, when there are a couple of incomes coming in, it's important to understand how that income is structured. For example, one of the partners may have a very stable income coming from maybe a government job, a teaching role, etc., while another partner may be having much more volatile inflow, simply because the kind of work that they do tends to be in blocks and pieces, or just the job and career that they are in could be prone to risks. So it's very important to first understand that, because the investment strategy that gets run between the two of them could be very different. So for example, the one with the more stable income could actually end up being more aggressive with their portfolio, while the one who's got a more volatile income may end up being lesser aggressive, just simply because the income flows are different. It's also important to look at your expenses in different buckets. So there are what we would call expenses which are strictly your own. For example, you might like to do a holiday by yourself, or there might be a parent to be supported. So many of these are what I would call my expenses. And then there could be our expenses, which could be different, which are essentially things which are common. Let's say contributing to a travel fund, which is a family holiday, maybe retirement, which is a common goal that could be there, and other pieces. So it's important to do that segregation as well. And last but not the least, the point about risk appetite is very important, because what could happen is if two partners have risk appetites different from each other, and we see that most commonly, if you create a joint portfolio where one portfolio is a reflection of the more conservative nature of an partner, while the other one is more aggressive, the combined portfolio very often could have the right amount of risk tolerance in it, which actually helps to achieve the common financial plan that the couples are working towards.
Right, got it. So that sorts of sets the tone on how we can manage or couples can manage their money more holistically. So, another kind of issue that sort of comes up with these couples is that since they have different goals, they have different, measures of earning income. So, we often see that one person earns more than the other, or maybe the other person has a more likelihood of retiring earlier. So, there is a lot of conflict in terms of the goals and also the sources of income. So, how should one actually manage such situations in terms of planning for their finances? And can they also come out with a better solution, or can this risk be mitigated in terms of putting it as out as an opportunity fund since one person is earning more? So, how do you look at that?
So I think it's a very common source of conflict actually, and we see this emerge either silently or some partners can be very expressive about it to each other. And I think it's important to think about why this conflict is something that needs to be mitigated, because if you do want to ideally lead the life that you want to lead, you need this to be in harmony. So I think there are a few things that are very, very critical. Number one is, some of this can come because the way couples define careers could be different. So one couple could be wanting to work for really long, believing that working long is good for my health, it's good for keeping me engaged, etc. And another partner could be thinking about slowing down or saying that I want to retire early. Now, when you think about it from that perspective, both of them have different objectives of retirement, and therefore reframing retirement itself is important so that it doesn't create any sort of power dynamics on this, where the person who's earning a higher income or going to earn for longer now appears to be the superior partner from a money perspective as compared to the other partner. So the way to do this typically is to actually go out and reframe this retirement, saying that these are choices that we are actively making, and therefore how we want our money to work may have to reflect this entire piece. So there is a common retirement pool. Now in that common retirement pool, the one who retires earlier may require larger corpus because that money has to last for a longer period of time. The one who retires later may require a smaller pool of money because the person is going to continue to earn income in a certain way. Similarly, the person who retires early may need cash flows to come in from the portfolio earlier as compared to the partner who retires later, because the income coming in from their profession could mean that the investment income is needed much later.
Okay.
So I think when couples start talking about this in a more defined manner, it is very often that they can get over some of these conflicts that can emerge. And I think speaking the right language, rather than it being a source of conflict, is very, very important in this whole discussion.
Sure. So my next question was actually about retirement, but since we've sort of shed some light on it, I would like to ask you directly from the point of view of these couples, keeping the perspective that there may be one of those couples who wants to retire early and the other wants to keep earning, or maybe pursue some other goal after retirement. So there might be a mismatch in terms of these timelines. So any other thing that you want to point out in terms of retirement, or maybe in terms of how your personal expenses and your joint expenditures, how to align them better in order to fund your retirement goals, or in order to fund your retirement lifespan better? So how do you look at that?
So again, when you look at your entire expense column, and I think most couples unfortunately don't spend enough time on their expenses itself. But when they get into it, looking at their individual bank accounts, joint bank accounts, credit card bills, they will suddenly discover that there are fixed expenses that are probably common to the family, like the maintenance that you pay for your home, or the rent that you pay, the grocery expenses, etc. And then there are discretionary expenses that different partners have, which could be linked to individual travel, personal clothing, grooming, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, what you need to do is, first of all, you need to understand how much of our expenses are actually this common pool
Mm-hmm.
and how much of them are discretionary and individual to one particular partner. Now, this is more to just get a clear picture rather than it again becoming a source of conflict saying, I think you spend too much individually. Because I think if it gets to that sort of a conversation, that normally doesn't end well. So once you've done that bit, then you start to say that, okay, besides this, are there some goals that we would like to plan for commonly? And you briefly referred to an opportunity fund. We think it's a great way to think about it, saying that when those opportunities come up, those opportunities could be a friend is setting up a business, I want to invest in that business. I think I need a sabbatical. Or there's a family member who needs support. Those pieces, when they have a pool of money which is already contributed towards, allow you first of all to set limits prudently and also make people aware that this set of money is actually for this particular purpose. And therefore, as and when it comes up, it becomes useful. So typically what we find is putting 5 to 10% of money towards this pool is a very useful option. Of course, please don't forget your own emergency fund requirement in the process. So one of the things that partners do end up doing if they don't have these conversations well, is each of them start to create their own emergency pools, which means that they're effectively as a couple becoming less efficient with their monies, because each of them is saying, I need 6 months of expenses in my account. And therefore, as a couple, you might have 12 months of expenses, which you don't really need. It's also very important as you think through these items that is it more efficient for one partner to spend in a particular way because of tax efficiency. So for example, if there's an HRA component, the partner who's getting it as a part of their compensation might find it easier to pay the rent and vice versa. So it's very important that couples think about this in the right way, whether it is their income or their expenses or their goals.
So let's look at what we have to throw at you now. So I think we've covered how they can approach retirement. Let's look at the other phase that follows maybe towards the later part of your life, that is senior living. So now that these couples or the new age couples have smaller families, they do sometimes feel how will they be protected, how will they stay connected with their children who might stay overseas as well, where to live, and there might be some other challenges that might come up. So do you suggest senior living facilities that are quite growing these days? Do you suggest looking at those? How should they sort of navigate that? And with old age also comes a lot of illnesses and all. So how should you go ahead with a critical illness cover or any other such measures that one should take in order to be insured with regards to these risks?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question, because typically what you will find with retirement is that a part of that is really about the money. Another part of it is actually about the emotional well-being and the physical well-being of being retired. And therefore, what senior living communities can often do is try to address the emotional part of your retirement as well as keeping you physically active. Because the community around you very often will have role models which will be able to do and who are doing the same thing. We need to be mindful though that there is no one size fits all here, because some people may choose to not have children because they like to be alone and be independent. Some of them may like the pleasure of their grandchild being with them, continue to live in a joint family structure, etc. So I think the way couples need to think about this is they do not need to do what their friends are doing. They need to be very mindful of what is it that they would like to do. And if they choose to live in a senior living community, obviously there is many options available there now, including renting options. Because what can then happen is the money that you have available in your retirement, instead of it being left behind for children, you can use it during your own life span as well, and therefore you can travel better, you can have better healthcare, you can spend money more easily, etc. I think the other thing that is very, very important is not to underestimate the healthcare costs here. And there's a tendency, especially when you're younger, to believe that health problems will come to others.
Mm.
The reality is that people are getting health challenges now in their 30s, in their 40s, much younger than what they used to. And therefore, the way to approach this is to start buying enough insurance independently on the health side early enough. So having a standalone health cover, a super top-up cover, a critical illness cover, all of this is important. And you may want to increase this as you go along, but definitely build the base
Sure.
because it's very important for you to have that.
Got it. Fine. So let's look at some other crucial, important point that comes in, which talks about succession planning or legacy planning. Since these couples now have a smaller family, smaller pool of successors, or maybe no children even. So how do you look at that and sort of ensure that your wealth, whatever that you've built over your lifetime, is that's taken care of and goes towards the right beneficiaries?
I think it's a very important thing and very underestimated. I think there are three parts to this whole journey around succession planning. The first part is, what if something happens to one partner? How do you want to deal with that situation? So there is a need to have a will in place. There is a need to have nominations, ideally have joint bank accounts. A lot of these things are critical. It may also be very important for people to think about having private family trusts, because what it does is that it ensures that the left behind partner is taken care of in a defined manner, and therefore doesn't really run out of money during those time frames, because both partners may not be as good as each other in terms of managing money as well. The second phase is when both partners are not there, in which case they need to talk in advance about what they want to happen with their money. Does it go to a charity? Does it go away to a nephew or niece? Is it distributed in a very different manner in the way that they are imagining it? So I think conversations around that are very important, because a lot of that wealth would have got created together. And the third situation is typically where both partners are there, but one is incapacitated and one is okay. And I think in those phases, the responsibility of the partner who is okay becomes much more. And therefore there need to be tools like power of attorneys, maybe even health directives that are put in advance, that are available, so that when couples go through that situation, they have discussed this and thought this through with their partner, rather than being sprung a surprise and now trying to figure out what would that individual have thought in this particular situation.
Of course, yeah. Important point. So I think that brings me kind of to the last question, but few insights we would need from you is that what are the few mistakes that couples might do in terms of merging their finances too early? What are those tips that you would give to them in such situations?
So I think it's a very tricky sort of situation, because what happens is most people think about this as a arithmetic problem, and like my income is X and my partner's income is 1.5x or 0.5x, etc. Actually, it's more a discovery process where partners need to understand how each of them are in terms of dealing with money, dealing with debt, dealing with situations that come up in their family, etc. And how do they want to support that from a money point of view. So what we believe is that merging too early is a problem if you haven't understood it, because one partner could feel like the other partner is overspending on certain areas which they don't agree with. Or waiting for too long is also a problem, because both people could be working towards common goals, but because their finances are not merged, it appears like they are going in an opposite direction, even though their goals are common. So I think there's an important thing to think there. So in a couple of years after couples are typically married, they do understand behaviors well enough, they do understand what is likely to happen, how, etc. And that becomes a good time to actually go out and do a lot of this. And therefore, we would say,
Mm.
give it a couple of years, don't take too long, but keep the communication channels going, because as you communicate more and more about money, it's more likely that you will get the right outcome.
Sure, thank you so much. So I think that brings me to the end of our conversation. So thank you so much for such valuable insights. I'm sure me and the investors did take out a lot from this. So maybe what truly matters for couples these days in terms of not only money, but the most important thing that I took out is mostly the communication part, communicating better, planning well in advance, and sort of starting early. So thank you so much for your insights, and thank you to our viewers as well for listening to us and tuning in. If you like what we just discussed, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Disclaimers. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing. Registration granted by SEBI, membership of BUSL and certification from National Institute of Securities Markets, NISM, in no way guarantee performance of the intermediary or provide any assurance of returns to investors. The information is only for consumption by the client, and such material should not be redistributed. The securities quoted are for illustration only and are not recommendatory. This material is for information and educational purposes only.